The following program is presented by the Metropolitan Library Service Agency.
Hello, welcome to All About Kids, a program focusing on the interests of children and young people and some of the issues affecting them. Today we'll be visiting the Minneapolis Crisis Nursery. Staff members Joan Feinberg and Roxie Karelis will describe the nursery's program and talk about how parents who need a little time out can leave their children in loving, caring hands for up to 72 hours. Joan and Roxie were here in what might be called the living room, but it's actually the intake room of Minneapolis Crisis Nursery. And we're going to be talking about your program you have for families today, and later on take a little bit of a tour of the rest of the nursery. Tell me a little bit about what the Minneapolis Crisis Nursery is, or a lot about what it is.
Well, we started in 1983, and what we're about is the prevention of child abuse and neglect. And so we service families in Hennepin County, and what we're able to do is offer a timeout for parents when they're experiencing stress or crisis that places their kids at risk of being abused or neglected. So if a parent is feeling like we know it's difficult to parent, and so if a parent is struggling with that and they're feeling that they're not able to give to their kids what they want to, they can call us and we can help them out.
One of the things we were talking about a minute ago was what is an actual crisis. It's not just a mother who needs a coffee break, or the families that you're working with are often isolated and they have nobody to turn to, nobody to talk to.
Absolutely. They're very often young. They're very often in really crisis kind of stressful situations. A whole variety of different kinds of situations. Homelessness, violence, a lot of family violence. Moms who are feeling that they've been with their children for long stretches of time and their patience is just wearing very thin, and they're worried about actually hurting their children at times.
So they actually have the courage to say, rather than hurt my child, I'm going to
look for help.
Right.
Get help.
And what happens is they will call us at the nursery and we will discuss over the phone what's going on, what is the situation. Sometimes I think when families are in crisis, it's very difficult to sort out alone exactly what can I do, who can I call, who can help me. Very often you can't do that by yourself, and so that's what our family counselors do with clients on the phone.
So they're actually having to build a trust relation over the phone to help this family make some decisions.
That's right.
That's right. And every person that calls, a counselor will work out a plan of some kind with them.
Mm-hmm. Because your facility is limited, you can't.
Right. And we also have parents who call who aren't looking for placement. They're calling and it's bedtime and my 3-year-old won't stay in bed and I have about had it. And we try and give them some ideas on how to help them get that 3-year-old to sleep, or different things. So the counselors handle over 200 crisis calls a month, and of that we place on the average about 70 families. So there's a lot of calls from people who are just needing other kinds of assistance.
You're working with other social service and community agencies.
Right.
So after you've done your phone work, though, and you decide that this is a family that needs the crisis nursery,
Right.
How does the family get here and what happens then?
Basically what we do is we then set a time for the family to bring their children into the nursery. We set a specific appointment time. If transportation is needed, we will provide transportation for them to bring their children into the nursery. because we service all of Hennepin County.
Suburban area as well.
Suburban
as the city of
areas as well
Minneapolis.
as the city of Minneapolis, and wide varieties of people. Some people are able to get here on their own, some people are not. They then bring their children in at the appointed time. They need to bring nothing with them at all. We have clothing, we have diapers, we have formula, we have all of that stuff. So they don't really need to worry about, getting it all together.
Packing the toothbrush,
No,
packing the clean
no,
underwear.
they don't have to
all
do
that.
any of that. They just really have to bring the child and come to the nursery. And then we meet right in this very room. This is the initial place that we meet, and we kind of talk a little bit and get mom relaxed and get the child relaxed.
Well, and it's not institutional. It's a
No.
cozy room. It's pleasantly furnished.
I think so.
It would be, I would think, it's very comforting to be here talking to you in this room.
And then at that point, usually what we do is we take the child and the mother back to our playroom area, because what we have found is that children get very interested rapidly in toys and activities and other children and what's going on. And we have the mother say goodbye to the child in the playroom.
And that can be kind of scary for a child if you,
It
if
can
you
be
said
very-
some of these children
it
have
can-
never been away from their parents
Absolutely,
before.
absolutely. It can be a very traumatic thing for both parent and child. And our child care staff is very well prepared at handling this sort of thing with children. They're trained in doing this, and so we try and make it as smooth as possible. Sometimes it's a very emotional kind of experience.
Well, when we were looking a little bit earlier, just to see the love that the child care staff had rocking and the relaxed children. Let's take a little tour of the nursery and look at the playroom, look at the bedrooms. And we know that you're very, very concerned about the privacy of the families who use the nursery. We'll just see the beds, the playroom, and we won't see any of the children who are here. that the staff put a lot of time into planning the layout of the nursery, the playroom with the different age-appropriate areas, that wonderful playground outside. How did you do that? The graphics on the wall that I understand are a service project from Breck School.
High school students, yes. I think a lot of it has, our children's services coordinator is responsible for that area of the nursery, and so it was a lot of thought by those folks. Before it was sectioned off, it was sort of, it could be a free-for-all in there, and it was real hard to sometimes keep infants safe, because there'd be someone crawling while a child is riding a scooter, and kids, when they're involved in their play, aren't always aware of the little babies that were around. So by sectioning it off, we were able to, first we felt like we were keeping kids safer, and then in each area there's activities that are geared age appropriate. So one area is for toddlers, so all the toys in there are toddler age appropriate, so they're not getting frustrated and when they're playing with something that maybe is too old for them to play with. Pieces aren't the kind pieces of stuff that they can't choke if they happen to put them in their mouth, those kinds of things. As well as we thought it was real important to have an area for the older kids. So they could play board games, they could read stories, and it would just be quieter.
I was impressed with the book collection, and the one thing, I haven't seen a TV at all.
No
We
TV.
don't have a TV.
We don't have a TV.
No TV.
No.
Oh,
So
TV
kids
has
are
a role
kids are
that
only here up to 3 days, and
And
we
if,
sort of
if you
feel
park
like they
in
can.
front of the TV, then they aren't having
Yeah.
any kind of interaction
Right.
with staff.
Right.
They're not doing games, they're not hearing stories.
Right.
We have because of the tremendous amount of volunteers that we have, we're able to have more than usually a 1-to-3 ratio of 1 adult to 3 children, to 2 children most of the time. So we want the kids to be able to interact.
And to have that wonderful attention from
Oh,
adults who's very, very
absolutely.
interested in the dining room area where 2 children had 2 adults and they were having some kind of really fun, creative play, imagination. It's a great opportunity for children. I was real impressed with the furniture in the bedrooms. It's all specially made, and rocking chairs everywhere, again emphasizing the security.
Right.
Talk about what happens when these children go to bed. They're only here for 3 nights or 2 nights.
2 nights.
2 nights, and this is a new place. They've come from what might have been a frightening situation at home or a tense situation. They're meeting people that they've not seen before. So how do you get a child to bed?
Well, bedtime is a very difficult time, I think. And so we give a lot of individual attention and a lot of nurturing at bedtime. As you said, we have a rocking chair in every room. And so our staff and our volunteers do a lot of rocking of children, reading of stories, singing songs, rubbing backs is a biggie.
We're just sitting there.
Yeah.
And just being available. Just it's some security for some
Right.
kids just to know there's somebody
Well,
else.
your
in
staff
the
has to
room.
be real sensitive to the needs of the individual child.
And they are.
And I imagine
Right.
a lot of children aren't real articulate with strangers about what the bedtime routine
That's
is, or if
true.
there's any routine.
We ask,
So-
that's one of the questions that we ask parents when we, at the intake, a counselor. We try and find out as much information as we can about the children so that we can make this stay as easy for them as possible. So we will know bedtime routines at that time, and we'll try and stick to those. And
Well, one of the other things that you mentioned earlier for parents, it must be reassuring for a parent to know that you're not formally connected with the police or the social
Right.
services, that they can come to you in
Right.
confidence and you'll help them.
Right, and that this is voluntary and that we don't have any tie to any of the county agencies or that they're doing this. This is something that they're doing on their own free will because they need the break and they want to place
And
the
yet,
children here.
if the family needs to be connected to another agency, you
Oh,
certainly will help them
absolutely.
and follow.
We do lots of referrals to places, if it's needed. Absolutely.
the counselors have to have a lot of knowledge about what resources are available in Hennepin County, because we try and keep everything individualized also, so that we're looking, a parent who's presenting whatever their situation is to us, we want to try and match them with an agency that we know will work for them. So sometimes it's trial and error, and then we just try a new one if we didn't get the right one the first time. But most of the time, the counselors are very good at it.
Well, you also said sometimes you'll get calls from another agency who will be talking to a parent, and they'll say, we think you might be able to help them. And you don't just talk to another social worker, you talk directly with that parent.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
you are really concerned about maintaining the dignity
Absolutely.
of the families you're working with. They are adults and they are making decisions. And,
That's right.
and you reinforce their decision-making ability.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
we will get calls from emergency room, hospital nurses, or doctors, or public health nurses. Child protection workers
Child
will
protection
be at a
workers.
client's home and call and, say that this parent needs some extra help right now, and I think they'd be appropriate for you.
Advocates from battered women's shelters call and say, there's a mom staying at the shelter who's having a very hard time with their child for one reason or another. And the stress level is so high and a break looks like it's indicated. And that's fine, and then we will talk directly with the mom and discuss what's going on and how is she feeling and if a placement at the nursery would be appropriate for her. Sometimes it is and sometimes it's not. Sometimes we can refer to something else that maybe would be more appropriate.
Because 3 days isn't very long, but it can be just enough for a parent who's under a real lot of stress
Right.
to get breathing room or look at options.
That's
or,
right.
What about, do you have repeat visitors often or
What we do basically is we evaluate each call as it comes in. We don't say to parents, you can only use us once, or you can only use us 3 times, we go crisis by crisis, basically. And so we evaluate each situation as it comes up for appropriateness for the use of the nursery. So yes, sometimes moms use us once, sometimes they use us 3 times. Sometimes they'll use us and then not use us again for another 7 months. It just depends on how life is going and what situations come up. So we do evaluate each situation independently.
without violating any privacy issues, what are some of the really kind of crucial situations that would force a family, force a mother to call and say, I just can't take it anymore? You talked about isolation before.
Isolation is a big one.
Transportation. I suppose poverty, if you have no money.
Absolutely. Moms will call and say, I have no food, I have no diapers, my check doesn't come until the end of the month, I've got 3 days to go, I can't feed the kids, I've borrowed from my girlfriend and she can't give me any more, and I'm getting so uptight and I'm getting really nervous and I'm really stressed out and the babies are crying, and I'm going to lose it. And so that would be a situation that we would say, not only maybe would the nursery be appropriate, but maybe we could refer to some places where she could get food, where she could get diapers. Somebody that could help her financially, at least, until her check would come. That's one kind of a situation. Another kind of a situation very often is where there's violence. There has been violence in the home. Maybe between partners. And the children aren't safe. Mom calls and she says, there's a lot going on and I'm really scared and I don't know if I'm safe and I don't know if my children are safe. And sometimes what we would do in that kind of a situation probably would be to evaluate, does mom need to get out of the house, and find safety for herself? And then we can do all sorts of referring to battered women's shelters, that sort of a thing. Maybe she's got a friend she can stay with, but there's no place for the children. And maybe we would be an appropriate place for those children for a period of time while she takes care of her business and finds a secure setting for herself and the children. That's another kind of a situation. Sometimes it's just merely that a mom is real stressed out and feels she's going to lose it with her child. I've had it, and I feel like I'm going to hit them, or I've been yelling at them constantly, and I need a break. I need to get away from them, or I'm going to lose it.
I don't think there's a parent in the world that hasn't
That's right.
experienced that feeling.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
most people are fortunate enough to have a neighbor, a
That's
grandmother,
right.
can afford to hire a babysitter, go out to a movie, or
Right.
and so a lot of families, even to go to a movie, even to take the bus downtown to shop, I mean,
That's
you can't
right.
do anything like that.
And that's exactly it. I mean, I've had moms call me who say, they have a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old and a 6-month-old, and to get out of the house is a major production, when you're taking all these children with you. And so they're closed in a lot, and they don't get the breaks that they need. And sometimes just get to the point where they can't take it anymore and feel they just have to get away.
I certainly can understand that. So there must be almost a sense of loosening of tension when
think
families
so.
come through this door because they
think
know
so.
I
their
think
kids
so.
are going to have fun.
Right.
Right,
They'll
yeah.
be-
And kids do love being here.
Oh, they
I think
do.
Kids
They
have
do.
a good time being here. We had a situation not too long ago where I handled the crisis call, and it was a man who had his children now, and he hadn't known that a couple months before his wife had placed the kids here because he hadn't been very involved with the family, and now the kids were with him, and he was feeling a little lost about, I'm not sure what I'm doing as a parent here because I haven't been very involved with my kids. But they got here, and the kids came running up the sidewalk, my daycare, and they were just so excited. And he was like, he just couldn't believe it because he was so nervous on the way over here trying to explain to them where they were going and why he needed to leave them, and they got here and they were fine. So we
couldn't have a better testimonial for the nursery and for the staff. We've been talking a lot about mothers, and you just mentioned a father who was real concerned about bringing his children in. Are you seeing lots of dads who are becoming more concerned about their relationship with their children and their ability to handle a crisis situation?
We're seeing more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we're
And
seeing more.
Yeah, and I don't know if that means it wasn't there and it's there now, or, but we're seeing a lot of men who are raising their children and struggle with it the same way that single moms struggle.
Well, and it's again an act of courage on the part of a father to admit that he can't
Absolutely.
handle any situation. A lot of men just kind of grew up thinking that they could never say, I'm wrong, or I don't know how to do something. And men, today's society, I don't think get the parenting skills often that women kind of absorb through the community or in school
Right.
classes.
Yeah, so we're glad to see it, and we've been increasing our outreach efforts and hope that we can reach more men and let them know that we're here also.
And that it's okay to be a dad and come to a place like this.
Right.
A while ago, you mentioned the magic word, Hennepin County, and we really haven't talked about where your funding comes from or who supports you. And you are partly funded by Hennepin County and by United Way of Minnesota.
Right.
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
United Way. And then the rest is the
Private donations.
private donations.
I love your corporate donor wall instead of the ostentatious plaques that we often see. You've got colored construction paper balloons, which
Right.
lends a real festive air and I think does the job in a better way than something that would be more expensive.
We have corporate donors, we have individual donors, lots of people. Foundations.
Actually, actually, I think the nursery's been really blessed. I mean,
Mhm.
we have a wish list, and people are always wanting to help with whatever's on our wish list.
That's right.
Churches, we have a lot of church involvement.
We're going to put your phone number at the end of the program so that anyone who wants more information or needs to contact you about volunteer opportunities or wants to call you because they think they could use your service
That'd be great.
will be able to.
That's wonderful.
And we welcome parents to come and tour the facility too.
Absolutely.
Before they would ever place their kids. So if someone just would feel more comfortable seeing us and meeting us in person,
Like
I
you
welcome
would
to
a
do that.
childcare facility.
Right,
Any,
right.
any kind of a service that you may offer.
Right.
Well, it's been a wonderful opportunity to talk to you about the program and to take a tour. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan Feinberg and Roxie Karelis. Thanks to all of you for joining us on All About Kids. Please tune in again.
This has been a presentation of Hennepin County Library in conjunction with the Twin Cities Metropolitan Library Service Agency. We thank you for watching, and we hope you visit your public library often.